You know what, guys? This is the absolute first time that I've had to do this, and this is to say that I'm an absolute idiot because I actually spelt the title of this video incorrectly last week. So what I've decided to do is go back and remake that video, but make it 10 times better than what the previous one was. So tonight we are looking at Pltr stock. Of course, I was wondering why that video got no views. Obviously, I should have probably checked that before it got published because it had a small typo that actually accounted for a big loss in views. Let's jump straight into this one tonight. I'm going to explain everything that's going to go on. So we're going to start off by looking at the stock in the past to gauge what has happened. We're going to have a quick look at what might happen in the future. We're going to look at some forecasts and whatnot, some revenue figures, the whole market in general, and just generally speaking, what this company is going to be like for the future. So of course, if you do want to see that video, I have corrected the title now. I'll leave a card to it probably already. That's going to be a more in-depth analysis on the company itself. Tonight we're just giving a proper analysis on the financials and what our analysts are saying about the stock. So yeah, if that does sound good and if you want to go check that one out as well, please do subscribe and like. The service is completely free. All of the videos on the channel are completely free to access. All I ask is that you just like the video and subscribe. Of course, every single subscriber matters. We're trying to get to 1,000. So if you could help us, thank you for that. Another thing actually is we now have a Discord server. Feel free to come and join us on Discord anytime. Link is also in the description. So yeah, let's jump straight in on this one. We're going to have a quick look at what we've seen in the past. So on the 1 day, we are now positive for this stock. Great thing to see. That's about a 1.9% increase for today. Looking at the 5-day period, it's quite a steep increase actually of about 30%. Not bad at all for this stock. So on the 1 month we are actually still up about 104% according to Google. That's obviously a massive increase for the 1 month period. Let's put this into perspective for the 6 month period, and we are looking at a whole growth of about 99% on the 6 month. Most of that is actually coming from the most recent weeks. So obviously looking at it from about the 30th of October, we have not really been seeing anything from that point until the 30th, where we saw a big pickup and then this spike, and it's even going up from there. Great thing to see. Let's hope that this does continue. So let's have a quick look into the company's finances and some forecasts and whatnot. So here, we're going to first look at our CNN forecast because that's one which we often use. Unfortunately, these are not positive on the stock. I am not with their opinion, just for your record. Obviously, some people are negative, some people are positive, and of course, I think that this is not going to be wrong because if we look at companies like Tesla and NEO, look at how many times their forecast has been updated and rated upwards in the past. Analysts do get things wrong, but on CNN, our analysts are all actually negative. We only have 6 of them, so obviously each one does account to quite a large percentage, and they are all kind of quite negative, with the lowest estimate being at -47% and the highest being at -4.7%, putting us at about $18 for the end of next year. Like I said, I personally do not believe this is true. I think this was a company that got, some contracts with the government, and obviously getting contracts with the government is obviously a huge and fantastic, principle, something to fall back on, and obviously a great start out in the markets. So nevertheless, we can look at what they are saying. 5 analysts are saying to hold it, so don't necessarily go out and buy the company, but if you already have it, don't sell it. There's one of the other analysts which is saying that you should buy it directly, another one which is saying that the stock is going to underperform. I just think it's interesting to gauge their opinions on it, but we're going to have a look at our Yahoo Finance analysis and also their revenue figures, which they have done a nice breakdown for with us on the company's revenue. So yeah, we're going to have a look at this year in comparison to previous ones. Obviously, this year is not finished yet, but we can see revenue is still up for total revenue in this year, even though the year is not finished yet. We're looking at about 1 million according to the figures. Previously, this was at 742.555 thousand, and then obviously that's even increased on the year before. So clearly quite a stable growth company. I did talk about this in the first video which we made on the company, so feel free to go give that one a look at for a deeper insight. But yeah, I really do think this company is going to be doing well. Profit has been increasing for the last 3 years. We are actually quite up on profit this year, and we're not even over yet. Cost of revenue, relatively decent. It's 357,946 this year, up from 242,000 last year, and then 165 from the year before. So obviously we can see that despite that, profit margins are still increasing as the profit figures are higher for this year, which is great to see. Obviously we are still waiting on our quarter 4 results for this one. We'll just have to wait and see what happens when they do come out. But yeah, I think that's the most important figures. Obviously we also did have our earnings out for this stock. I talked about that in the first episode, but just to recap on those just before I missed them, they were actually positive. The EPS was beaten, so of course that's a good thing to see. I explained why in that video. Like I said, I keep referencing back to that one, but that was a more, in-depth one, whereas this is a more quick but also correct one. So yeah, EPS was very good for this quarter, which is a good thing to see. And I think this has also had an influence in the price, as people are looking at this like, yeah, you know what, this is potentially a big company. Obviously, revenue figures high, EPS beat, things like that. And I think some analysts will be updating their, predictions for the company in a few years. So we have some analysts on here. We'll just talk about those in a minute. But yeah, I do think that with the market sector also expanding with data and whatnot being, increasingly important in society and just in general, and more data being needed to process. I talked about this in the first episode, how back in the day, like 2008, you had the first iPhone with like an 8 GB storage, and then you've got the new one that's got like 256. It just goes to show how much data is being processed and how much data is, well, how the value of data has been increasing over the past years in, well, just in general life. It's just something that people need, and companies like this are no exception because these are needed to kind of, analyze and process the data. So yeah, let's just not get any further swayed. Let's have a look at what our analysts are saying. So we have 5 and 6 actually for next year. So we have 5 for next quarter and 6 for the current year. So for the next quarter, we'll have a look into the current quarter and the next quarter only. So the current year, actually, as well, we'll do that. We'll look at all of them. Forget what I just said. So the current quarter, we have 5 analysts. They have an average estimate of 0.02%, low of also 0.02%, and a high of 0.03%. Very interesting to see. Not much diversification there. We have for next quarter also quite positive at 0.02%. 0.01% is a low estimate, so slightly lower, doesn't necessarily mean anything, and a high of 0.02, also slightly lower. Let's have a look at next year though in comparison to this year, and this time, like I said, we have 6 analysts and these are looking at positive figures. We'll look at revenue in just a moment, by the way, but here we can see that we have 6 analysts. This year they are looking at 0.08%, next year 0.12%, so obviously slight an increase, but it is still a significant increase nevertheless. This goes on for the low estimate, which is also higher than this year, and the high estimate is also significantly higher than this year, and that is a good thing to see. We actually do have a year ago EPS, which is 0.08% for 2021. Not bad at all. Let's have a look at revenue figures as well. So we have 4 and 6 analysts. So we have 4 analysts for the quarters and we have 6 for the years. So we can see that for the current quarter we have 4 and they are given an average of 300.31 million, and that is for next quarter going to be 309.41 million. Interesting to see. So obviously that would be an increase, which is good. So generally speaking, the whole ideology is also an increase behind that. That's also for an average though. Let's have a look at a low. So a low for this quarter is going to be 300 million, and a low for next quarter is going to be 302 million according to these analysts, that is. And of course that's slightly higher than this year, which does show growth for the next quarter, if you were wondering. And this is according to 4 analysts, by the way, on Yahoo Finance, so please don't quote me on this one. We also have a high estimate of 300 million on this quarter and 314 on next quarter, which is of course quite the significant increase as well. So we don't actually have any details for year ago sales and whatnot. Let's have a look over to the current year and then next year. Like I said, this time we have 6 analysts and they are expecting 1.07 billion for this year for an average estimate. This is increasing to 1.41 billion next year according to those. So obviously that's almost half an increase, which is a good thing to see. They are generally speaking all positive on that. The low side even is positive at 1.37 billion, increasing from only 1.07 billion. So obviously 300 million increase, good thing to see. And we have a high of 1.07 billion, sorry, for this year, and for next year 1.45 billion. So obviously quite an increase as well. Good things to see for this one. So let's have a quick, analysis on what this means. Let's just give you a quick rundown on this. Of course, we could have a look at a few of these other figures, but we won't do that right now. We're just going to do that in another video, hopefully. I just want to have a quick look at what this information means. So, generally speaking, all of the analysts on this website are saying that this is going to grow into the next year, and I think this is probably true. Like I said, if they can get more contracts like the ones that they have already secured, and also capture some of that growing market sector into the next few years, we see big potential with this one. And I think it's definitely possible that, they could have an advantage on this sector, as they already kind of have an established name, and I think things like that are going to be great for the company. I am looking at growth for it, in my opinion. I would like to see maybe 10 to 20% increase in the share price in the next year, potentially more. I can definitely see it being more than that. That's my conservative estimate. Perhaps over 50% plus in the next year is my high estimate. And on a low estimate, I would say, maybe like I said, 10% on the very lowest side. But I can see this being a generally slow and, linear increase in sector. And I think this share will also increase with that. So like I said, for a deeper analysis, feel free to go watch that very first episode. The link will be in a card, hopefully will have been carded in. And of course, feel free to come and join us on Discord, and do not forget to subscribe. With all that being said, thank you for your time, and I will see you in the next one, which will be out tomorrow. So goodbye, I will see you then.